Hello, friends, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Your Business Story podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Spencer, and today I am joined by not one amazing guest, but two amazing guests. I have the lovely Alex and Katie Pauls, who I want to call Kati because I just found out she's Hungarian. Paul, thank you, Alex and Katie, for being here. How are you doing today?
Very good this Halloween morning.
Awesome.
Yes, if you're wondering why Katie is dressed up, it's because we are recording on Halloween Eve. No, Halloween. How was Halloween Eve yesterday? I feel like.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless tonight is All Hallows Eve.
Right, that's true. That's confusing. Whoever thought up the language on that should have been a little more clear, and I'm sure we can talk about that later.
It was always like the night before.
Right. So maybe it's like midnight is actual. I don't know. I don't know the history of it. But we're going to have so much fun today. Are you ready?
Ready
to rock. I loved your video intro. That was fun.
Thank you. Yes, I had someone who owns a rock and roll school write the guitar parts and play that for me. So he's awesome.
Amazing.
Original music.
That's right. So today we're going to be talking about the question, should I work with my spouse? And I have actually worked with my spouse, so I have some thoughts. They're good ones, don't worry. Spoiler. But today we are having Alex and Katie Pauls, who are both branding alchemists. I love that description, who do life and work together to help epic business owners through branding, website creation, and graphic design. So triple threat. Their website is gorgeous, in case you were wondering. But what's unique about their firm is that it's run by both of them, meaning they work together at home as parents and spouses, but also in the office as co-founders. In this episode, we'll talk about the why behind working with your spouse, when it works, what the challenges are, and how you know if it's the right time for you to transition into a professional odyssey with your best friend. All right, so we are doing a curiosity stories season. This season's all about curiosity. And when I was talking to you, Alex, and I just got to meet Katie, which obviously I like you, Katie. You're dressed up on my show and I appreciate it so much. But when we were talking, I was like, hey, you know what might be fun is to come on and talk about what it's like to work with your spouse. And I know that the two of you are, in a place where you just absolutely love it. I've been there. It's amazing. I hope to get back there. But how did you end up working together in the same business? What did that look like?
So I have had this business for 20 plus years. I've always been an entrepreneur my whole life. And so that allowed me to stay home and raise the kids. And Alex went to Manitoba Hydro and did his power electrical stuff. We sold all of our stuff from Manitoba, moved to Alberta, took the kids backpacking through Europe first, of course. But then when we landed here, now it was time for Alex to find something different to do with his life and career. So he did some electrical sales, kind of the opposite of what he was doing in Manitoba. And when those didn't pan out, I looked at him and I'm like, okay, I think it's time for you to finally come and work with me, because that was always the dream. Like when we were from 15 and onward, like we're going to work together one day, because you might as well spend that time that you're working with the person that you love the most in life.
Okay, wait, let me rewind a tiny bit. You said since you were 15. Can you talk more about that?
We met when we were 15.
It's true. I saw her and I somehow mustered up the courage to talk to the prettiest girl in school. And did I even have a cheesy pickup line? I probably just asked her if we had gym class, and just for an excuse to talk to me. And the rest is kind of history. We started walking together at our breaks, and
I'm a feeler. So that means I feel first before I think. So his energy was safe and it was kind, and we were both kind of coming from the same position of stuff happening at home, and we just really needed each other. So we saved each other.
I love that. That's so inspiring. Okay, so you are high school sweethearts. You decide you're going to do life together. You've gone through this transition. what did that look like practically? Like, did you have kids at that point? How did you decide who was going to do what? How did you end up becoming brand alchemists? Tell me.
It was really interesting because I had a really interesting career. I worked as a power electrician, then I worked as an electrical engineering technologist, then I worked in electrical sales and business development for a couple of years, and then all of those things really led me to the point where I knew that if we weren't going to do it now, we were never going to do it.
Mm.
So it's almost like I got pushed off a cliff. It's like, okay, now it's going to happen. And I just remember telling her, I'm like, this is our sign. Like this is our time to go for it. How old were we? We were about 39, 40 at the time. We're 45 now. So we've been working together for about 5 years. And I just remember her sitting me down. This was the most memorable thing to me, was her sitting me down and saying, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been building my business, and I don't want you goofing around and screwing it up. She knows.
I love how real that is.
She knows that I am not as focused as her. I'm a little bit of a scatterbrain. I do things very differently than her. But she's like, you gotta like fully commit. You can't overpromise, underdeliver. Like you can't make me look bad. And I was like, wow, my wife is my boss. This is really wild. And I put my ego aside, and I was totally cool with that, because everything she was saying was out of love for us and for our business. So she really created this like perimeter of what needed to happen so that we could be successful in both. And I really appreciated that. Like, you're really responsible.
You took it really well. I mean, you really do have to set your ego aside, no matter who it is that you're working with, right? I mean, the person that has built the business, and the business is, everything that I set up. So he came in so graciously and said, okay, what are we doing? Tell me what my role is. Let's put up the boundaries. I'm going to stay in my lane. You stay in your lane. And so it kind of just built up from there.
But the good part is that I like to do all the stuff that she doesn't like. And I don't do any of the things that she does. I mean, once in a while, we always call it pair geniusing things, because we're a pair and we bounce ideas off of each other. And that's cool. And sometimes she'll take my suggestions well. And sometimes she tells me to go sit in the garage and get away from her. But it's all good.
We're a pair of self-proclaimed geniuses, not because of our intellect, but because we figured out really early what our life purpose was, how our life purposes were intertwined, and putting two people behind one goal really amplifies it.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is really important to realize before you head into, I think, business with your spouse or even a partner, right? Because partnerships are very deep relationships, and they can make or break you. And I've talked to so many people who they have a partnership and it just sort of implodes because they're not communicating, because they're not unified in having that goal, in knowing how they're going to proceed, how they're going to measure whether or not they're proceeding, and what they really want the business to do. So I think that is a really important point. Okay, now to the why branding. I'm a branding person, so I get it. It makes me so happy. But what was it about that for you? And how did you, like, it's a layer of skills that you have, right? Because you do the website, which is technology based, and then you have the graphic design, which is also technology based with like all that art fun stuff thrown in, and then branding. Those are not necessarily related. How did you decide we're going to do all three?
So my background is, I have a bachelor's degree in music, so I'm very creative. So taking that and then applying the web stuff, like I'm all self-taught. I didn't go to school for graphic design. I did not go to school for website development. So I taught myself HTML, and then CSS came out, and I taught myself that, and then JavaScript. And so that mathematical part used that other side of my brain, and it balanced it so nicely. Like I had this beautiful balance. And then I had to really step back. I'm like, okay, I can do all of these things. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but what is the one thing that would combine everything into this beautiful capsule that I could then go and offer people that would actually help their businesses? And that was definitely branding. And then I thought, well, what makes me different? And then the brand Alchemist came to me. Now, The Alchemist is my favorite book, like hands down on the planet. The Alchemist is my favorite book. So I thought that is so perfect because it's not that I'm the alchemist, it's that I'm bringing out the alchemist in you. I want to make sure that you can connect with your brand, that you are connecting with your audience, because without that connection, there is this horrible disconnect that creates confusion, and a confused user is not going to become a purchaser.
Right. Yes, I say that all the time. I'm like, confused people don't purchase. That's like my favorite. If you're in any one of my classes or course, whatever, you get so sick of that phrase so fast because it's true. It's the truth. It is one of the things I have found to be most true in business and in life, because my background is I come from the book services realm. So when you're like, The Alchemist is my favorite, I'm like, yes, we could talk about literature, but we can't because that's not what we're talking about today.
Next time.
Yes. So it's one of those things where if you are confusing the reader as a fiction author, they will put your book down. They're going to assume that your entire body of work, not just that book, is confusing, and they're not going to give you another chance. And it's the same with your brand. You get one chance. So we have to take that seriously. Okay, so Alex, what roles do you have in the business? Because I think we're really clear on what Kati does now. She's the creative genius.
Yeah, I do a lot of the networking. We put together the sales presentations. I do a lot of the SEO for the websites. We bounce ideas off of each other. I do a lot of the accounting.
I mean, you're a creative problem solver in the same way that I am, which is why the two of us working together actually works. So our tagline is elevated experiences. So, whether we're having a conversation with you, not even doing any work for you, that conversation, we come at it in a way of how can we elevate this experience that we're having? How can we serve you in this conversation?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's ask some of the questions that are in the copy so that we don't make me a liar, right? Out of what I said. So what do you think are some signs that people should think about working with their spouse?
Oh, wow. What are some signs? The thing that I would recommend to a lot of people is if everybody should, if you're in a relationship, you should have a common goal. Like that thing. Everybody says, "Oh, I just want to retire." Right? Like everybody wants to work till they're 55 and retire. And I figured out long ago that that's kind of not the purpose of life. So it's very interesting to create a goal where you build something together. You built this relationship, you built a family. Why can't you build a business with all of these skills that you've acquired in your life up until this point, and then build a business?
I think that a sign would be if you're in a state of transition, if something is feeling a little bit off in any aspect of your life, if you can step back and say, can I solve this with my partner? Is there a way that we can, because our kids were teenager-ish when we started working together, one of them, and they're like, what, dad's not working anymore? We're going to be poor. We're going to be on the street. I'm like, whoa. First of all,
wait a minute.
that's fine. Thank you. But second of all, the opportunity to make more money together, it's kind of amplified because we're on that same goal. Like we're both in that same headspace, and it feels more true and authentic to show up as the two of us as opposed to just one of us.
I think, and to answer your question on my side, my sign from the universe was I recognized at around the age of 36 or 37 that I had accomplished everything I wanted to in the chapter that I was in, and I was kind of slowly dying just because I just wasn't there. There just wasn't anything left for me to do there. And I had acquired the skills that I needed. I just didn't know how to combine us at that time. And I guess you could call it like a midlife crisis. That was kind of my sign where I just wasn't happy. And I knew that working with my wife would make me happy. That was my sign. And I think a lot of people around the midlife of their journey have these moments. Some of them buy a Corvette, some of them
Girl mustache.
yeah, so some of them get divorced, some of them do all sorts of things, but I knew that, this is just the middle part of my journey, and I have enough skills in my toolbox now to move forward. And this is kind of that push from the universe that, okay, this is your choose your own adventure novel. This is what you're going to do. And otherwise you're just going to sit and be miserable. And I think so many people just sit in their own misery and then until they can't smell it anymore, and what I did was very terrifying. It was very scary to walk away from a government job. But do I have any regrets? I never regret it for one day. And that was my sign. And I think so many of us, especially men, we get this like sign around the middle part of our lives. Like, what are we going to do? Right. I guess it's long-winded, but
No, I love it. So actually, in our family, we call Corvettes the midlife crisis mobile. No offense to Corvettes. They are amazing pieces of machinery, but the people who drive them are obviously in the midst of that crisis. So that's why we called them that. But
the new ones
yeah,
are really nice. Yeah.
they're so fancy and beautiful, but I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't take it seriously because of the situation in which people normally purchase them. So that I think, you're right, is it does take that brave action to say, I'm going to make the life I want to live. And as someone who has worked with my spouse when we were humanitarian workers living in Europe, it was just a blast because we were around each other so much. And right now we're going through that transition of he's working a job that gives us health insurance because we moved back to the US and he has an autoimmune disease. So we need that.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we will be okay without it. And when we get to that point, I'll be glad for him to come work for me and do all the things. Like he would be the networker, not me, because he's a super extrovert and it charges him up to sit and talk to people all day, where I'm like, my battery is dying every second. So I love that, where you guys have the same goal, but your skills complement each other. And that's something that I think people would say, hey, that's just how it happened. But it seems to me that you were able to develop the skills in order to do that. How do you think that works? Like, do you feel like that's accurate?
Yeah, I think that what you can say is that if your skills complement each other in your marriage, like, the you complete me thing from Jerry Maguire, right? Like, you really do complete me in my life. So why wouldn't you complete me in my business?
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. Are we ready to? I think we fulfilled all the things we promised in the copy, right? So can we dive into the curiosity questions? Are you ready?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And I'm fine for 2 answers for everything. All right. So when I say the word curious, what are your first thoughts?
Curious George.
Okay. Nice.
The first thing that I thought of was inquisitive. And then
asking questions.
Yeah.
Well, Curious George is like that, except he's a monkey, so he can't ask questions. So he does things, and then people tell him, wait a minute, don't do that. Or, I guess this turned out okay. Yeah, that's so much fun.
And it makes me think of Harry Potter, too, with the map and stuff like that. And Harry Potter's got a lot of curiosity in it.
That's true. I think that's one of the things that's really endearing about the characters, because we're curious and then they help us find the answers we want in that world.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So what things are you both curious about that other people in your industry aren't willing to be curious about?
I think that for me, I'm curious about anything to do with the alchemy of the work that I'm doing. So it's a lot of symbology. I am so into the symbols because the symbols is symbology is the language of your higher self. So if I can use symbology as a basis for all of the brands I create, I know that my higher self is speaking to your higher self, and people who interact with your brand are being touched on a very different level.
I think for me, like I was on the AI thing probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago already, and I feel like I'm past that. So when I hear people talking about AI now, I'm just like, oh man, that's so like 2 years ago already for me, and I'm constantly trying to get to that next thing. Like what's going to be the next thing for our business? I feel like the AI thing is I don't know.
I feel like we're curious about how we can be more human within our business. Let's do the anti-AI and be as human as possible.
Right. And it's funny, like I don't copy any of our competitors. I don't follow our competitors. We're not, yeah, like we don't poison our well by trying to like grab inspiration from others. I mean, not that we're maybe the most original people, but it's original to us. When we come up with an idea or a direction that we want to go in, it really is from us walking together in the forest, and we talk it out. We get these ideas, and I really like the way we work together.
That's so important. I mean, obviously, I'm over AI as well. I'm like, we're on the end of this trend, and I don't want to talk about this anymore. Uh,
Right?
but I do think that branding agencies like yours, like mine, who are saying the differentiation is going to be the human element, that we are going to come out ahead because we're willing to be, like you're saying, Alex, 3 steps but ahead of everyone else, which means we have to find out more things, we have to take more guff, I guess, but we're willing to do that because it keeps us where we're innovating, where we're being creative, and where we're learning what works by actually testing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, we still use AI a little bit, but it's quickly going by the wayside, right?
It's a good tool as a jumping point for content or whatever, right? Like it's just a tool.
If anything, I don't know, I almost feel dirty using it now, just because it's all it does is it copies what it can find out there, right? And if you want to be an innovator, you need to be, like you're the next step. You're the thing that AI is going to be copying in a few years, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And the way that AI has learned is not ethical. So I have a whole class on that because I'm a self published author. Most of my clients are self published authors, and they sourced all the things that they're using from copyrighted material from tiny people like us that they knew wouldn't be able to afford to sue them. And it makes me super bummed out.
Yeah, for sure. And same with artwork. And yeah, anyway, we just did a podcast last night about it's called the David Beverly Jr. He wrote a book called The Coming Flood of AI. And I'll plug him because man, that guy's amazing. He used to work at NASA, and a really amazing guy. And he is on the cusp of warning everybody about this disaster, this Pandora's box that we're opening. And it's a good warning to everybody, and especially for small business. Like once we're gone, once AI kills us, what are you going to do? Like what are people going to do, right? Like
AI can't be an alchemist, only you can. So
yeah.
Right. Yeah, and let me just plug Blake Crouch. If anyone hasn't read him, he has some really terrifying books about what AI could do, and they're a delight. I personally think they're a delight because I love science fiction, especially future heavy science fiction.
I just walk around saying, hasn't anyone watched Terminator? Like, hello.
I know. Yeah. My profile, like 20 years ago when I was a teenager, used to say, like, I hate clowns and robots. And I still stand by that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Exactly. We're with you. It's a good thing I didn't dress up as a clown.
I mean, as long as you're far away, so it will be okay. But if you were here, I might be like, I'm just going to go hang out in the other room because.
Oh, man. You know what's funny is I just booked our daughter's first escape room, and it ended up being like this horror carnival with an actor that was a clown in the room with us. And my daughter was just like, no, this is not cool. She's like, send the actor away. I'm like, okay.
I agree with her 100%.
Oh man, it's so funny that the kids are naturally scared of clowns.
True.
So, okay, let's do the next question before we terrorize me thinking about clowns too much. How do you start the process of getting curious about questions and ideas that maybe made you feel nervous at first? Like you're like, oh, I can't. It's like when you avoid balancing your checkbook. We've all been there, right? Where you're like, if I don't know the information, I'm okay.
You want to go first?
No, because I'm still thinking.
I'm still thinking too.
That's a tough question.
Yeah. Holy smokes. Say it again for me. I'm sorry.
Okay. No problem at all. I know it's a hard question. So how did you start the process of getting curious about questions and ideas that maybe made you feel nervous at first?
I mean, when you think about the idea of going to work with your spouse, leaving that guaranteed paycheck, I think that is probably one of the scariest things to get curious about, because all of a sudden you have to stand up and invest in yourself, because you're the only one who's going to let yourself down. And that's a tough thing. That means you have to learn how to keep promises that you've made to yourself. So if you promise to stay fit, you're going to the gym 3 times a week, and you could never say no to that. You get up, and it doesn't matter what you feel like, you go. You don't let yourself down. So all of a sudden, your failure depends entirely on you, as does your success.
I think for me,
it's double-sided.
Yeah, I think for me, that push of losing my income and coming aboard with our company was actually a blessing, because I didn't realize that I am naturally curious. I read a lot, I study, I learn, I watch videos, and all I did was jump into what was that website that you Skillshare. So I went into Skillshare.
Oh yeah.
Skillshare is incredible, especially for somebody like me. I'm an electrician, I'm a engineer. I didn't have any background for SEO or website stuff. So I went into all these gigantic pools of resources, and I paid whatever I could. I got whatever I could for free, and I just immersed myself. And I benefited from that curious nature, from that wanting to learn something completely new, and like just completely wrap myself around in something that I had never experienced before. And then to bring that big piece and basically reverse engineer my role into the company, I'm like, oh, this is what our company needs. Boom, I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to see what all these courses these people have and these qualifications. And then I'll just go and I'll learn those things too. And then that's how I benefited from curiosity.
Yeah, transformation lives in curiosity. And if you can tap into that, you're opening yourself up to all sorts of magic in your next chapter.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, I was just working on because I do interviews and then I do solo episodes where I dive really deep into the topic. And the one that I recorded earlier was on the 5 dimensions of curiosity. And it sounds like for you, Alex, you were hitting on 2 or 3 different dimensions at the same time, which is why you were so motivated to do all of those things at once. So yeah, if you're interested in that, feel free to listen to that episode. I was like reading the stuff. I totally geeked out on studies this morning, and it was so cool. And I was like, okay, bookmark 5 pages, come back later and read more.
Nice. It is something else to be wanting to be of service, to all of a sudden not be employed, but wanting to be of service so badly. And as a man, right? Like I'm the breadwinner. I want to work and make money. I want to take care of my family. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I need to rely on you while I get up to speed so that I can be a useful piece of this puzzle. I realize that our situation's unique. We didn't start a company from scratch. She started the company from scratch, and I added on to it later on in life. So, but I mean, it's interesting. It would be interesting to talk to other couples that, what their situations are.
I do have a question for you, because I know people are thinking it. They're going to be thinking about Alex and Leela Hormozi, because everyone thinks about them when they think about working together. And so they have separate offices because they say that helps them miss each other. What do you think about that? How do you deal with that? Do you work in the same office? Do you ever get sick of each other?
We do work in the same, so I mean, our office is in the upstairs of our house. You know, and the kids, they walk by, the dog comes in and out. He's on this side of the room, I'm on that side of the room. The greatest thing for me has been my noise canceling headphones. I love them. First of all, I use the music to get into the creative flow. Like I love,
zone.
You know what I love is the Elder Scrolls music. It is like, I mean, I'm not a video gamer, but holy smokes, scores for video games are like mind blowing.
And but movies also, too.
Right. And then, but the other thing is that it tunes out his conversations and his fidgeting and whatever else he's doing that might pull me out of the creative zone.
Yeah. And then, I mean, but sometimes I'll go to the basement. Sometimes she'll go to the bedroom, especially if we need to really concentrate. But I would say 80% of the time we're probably side by side. Yep. And then it's really fun to do podcasts together. It's really fun to do website reveals and brand reveals together. Those are actually my favorite moments in our business. Like when we present and I get to do the fun color commentary while she does her professional thing, and I hype up the presentation, and I'm surprised too, because lots of times I don't see the entire thing with our clients, and sometimes they're emotional, they're in tears, and it's like, oh man, like this is that emotional payment that we get that's like better than any money.
The long and the short of it is we like each other. We spend most of our time together.
Yeah, no, I can relate. That's how I feel about my husband too. But I also want to say, like, Alex, do you know the benefit that you're feeling comes from the thrill-seeking dimension of curiosity?
I believe it, yeah.
When you have that big reveal, all that time that you've put in has been motivated partly by getting to see the other person's reaction, because that's a thrill for people like us.
Yeah. Oh, totally nailed it. That's exactly that. That's that payment that I love. Like, it's nice to eat and it's nice to pay for the house, but
you know, those little things, whatever.
Yeah. Oh man.
Okay, I have one more question, and I already know the answer because Alex already answered it, but I'm just going to ask it anyway because that's how the show goes. Do you think that being curious in business has helped or hurt you?
Definitely helped. Definitely helped. It's not a walk in the park. It's not easy by any means. We love spending time together, yes, but, there is something to be said about the usefulness of arguments. So you don't want to have harmful arguments, arguments that don't get resolved or push your business in the right direction. So for us, the antidote to that is we go for a walk, because when you're walking side by side with somebody and you're arguing, you're not looking directly at them and your body is moving. So there's no stale energy anywhere. The energy is flowing and you're outside, and it's you're calmed down and you are able to better organize the thoughts in your mind and then come up with better solutions.
And I was just going to say, while you were talking, it came to me. It's like curiosity. And I want to thank you, Kristen, because I didn't realize this, that curiosity in me saved my life. I did not realize that, like, I was slowly dying, like doing the same thing every single day and not being curious, not challenging myself. And when I lost my job and we started working together, this fire ignited inside of me, and I was forced to go out into the world and find all these incredible things that ended up being interesting to me. And it's like, wow, I got this second lease on life. And I think right now I'm probably due for another burst of curiosity. And that's where my new podcast is taking off, and I'm excited about that. And I want to thank you for shining light on that, because honestly, those are the things that really light me up when I'm learning something new and getting to meet other people. That really lights me up because I get to learn more about them.
Curiosity is the word of the day.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we did this because in the last season, it was the accidental theme and people kept saying it and bringing it up. I was like, let's talk more about this, because like you're saying, even going for a walk, when you're outside, you're naturally more curious. And when you're curious, you are going to think about the why behind what the person says instead of thinking about it as a personal attack. So curiosity has really helped me in my relationships with my clients, but also with my husband, with my kids. I have 2 teenage girls, and that is a whole nother thing. That could be a whole, yes. Katie shaking her head because she knows what I'm talking about.
We're there with you.
We're
We've
right
got
there
them
with
too.
All right. So if people want to reach out to work with you, and by the way, people sometimes will tell me, why do you have branding experts on your show when you're a branding expert? There's no competition among branding experts. If I'm not right for you, maybe Alex and Katie are. And so I don't look at it as competition. I look at it as we're brand friends. So if you want to work with them, you should. So how do people find you? How do they work with you?
I think the easiest way would be to go to our website.
Yes, it's kpdesign.ca.
Which you should go to anyway, just because it's so fun. It has them riding on a motorcycle, which is one of the things they love to do. Let me just put this up on the screen here so everyone can see it. So kpdesign.ca, please go connect with them. Also, I have put their LinkedIn profiles separately because they're 2 separate and amazing people in the show notes. Connect with them. And what I'd like to do for the last 60 seconds of the show before we close is, if you could give someone one piece of advice, or I guess in this case, we're going to do 2 pieces of advice when it comes to thinking about how to structure your business around your family or how to be curious, your choice, what would that be?
I would say if you're feeling like something is missing in your life, look to your partner for the answers.
I would say that curiosity is led by your higher self. If you're feeling curious, that's because you're meant to be doing something that you're not currently doing. And there is enormous potential in that.
Oh, so enlightening. Thank you so much for being guest. And to all of the watchers/listeners, I want to tell you, you know what I'm going to say, that you are amazing. I believe in you and your business story matters. Until next time, have just amazing rest of your day.